Welcome to another Dragon Fire.Sides, the podcast where we discuss holistic medicine, the entrepreneurial journey of a clinical practitioner, all of the hardships that we go through, what winning looks like, and a place just to form community and sort of validate each other on our paths. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Chloe Weber. She's the owner and founder of two ecom companies. She's a TCM and acupuncture practitioner. She's an amazing mom. And we've been talking for some time now. Chloe, did I miss anything? Can you give us kind of your origin story and how you ended up here?
Oh, well, that's a fascinating one. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, David. It's always lovely to chat with you. Let's see. So I got into Chinese medicine because I was really interested in public health, and I started studying Chinese herbs and looking at it as a way that we could really use our medicine for public health interventions. And that's been my obsession for the past, 15 years or so. So my first business was Urban Herbs, which was a sliding scale nonprofit herb clinic in the hood in Denver. And that was my baby. I loved it tremendously. It's now, I think, Vale Valley Wellness with Becky Childs or Becky Burgess. And after that, my son Remy was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called STXBP1, causes global developmental delays and disabilities, as well as very severe epilepsy. So once I was sort of trying to find my feet and figure out what I could do to support his epilepsy, I obviously started studying CBD and all of its incredible impacts on the brain. And when I looked at the market, all of the products were really one size fits all. And as an herbalist and somebody who's studied Chinese medicine, I know that the most powerful way that we can use herbs is in dynamic formulas. So I called a couple of companies. I was like, please, I will write you formulas. I don't care about getting paid. Just do this. This is going to make your herbs so much more effective. And this is what I need for my son. And nobody got back to me. And so at the time, I'm still a single mom of a child with multiple disabilities. So I really did not want to start another business. But since nobody was willing to work with me on it, I sort of stomped my feet long enough and then decided to start it. And it has been a wild ride since. Running a herb company is very interesting, and I've learned quite a lot and had my ass handed to me more than I've had wins. But it's been a lot of fun either way. So
Amazing, amazing. So that's one of the things that I didn't even specify is that you are bridging two worlds together with these herbal companies. On the one hand, you have TCM formulation, traditional Chinese medicine, for those that don't know, and on the other side, we have CBD. Um, how did you come to that, and why?
well, first and foremost, CBD is a pain in the ass in terms of running a business. So I've never successfully run an ad for Radical Roots, which is really quite a challenging thing for a small business. Um, that being said, as I was saying, if you go into the science of CBD and you look at its mechanisms, how it's supporting the body so dynamically, if you look at its history in TCM and Chinese medicine, it has been used for thousands of years. And so it really works very dynamically with our herbal system in order to help calm the nervous system, reduce inflammation, and allow our body sort of to receive the Chinese herbs even more effectively. So for me, my real focus was on pediatric neurological disorders, specifically epilepsy, but also all of the neurodevelopmental disorders that are totally skyrocketing right now and how we can support our kids. And then when you look at the herbal products again out there, CBD had become such a trend for a while. Like we launched in 2019. I launched with a business partner, Bart Beckerman, who's wonderful. He's since moved on to other projects, but when we launched, it was just such a huge trend. CBD was everywhere. And then again, it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, A, this isn't one size fits all. Like, yes, it's going to support your endocannabinoid system if you're getting a good quality CBD, but it could be so much more effective. And so many of the people who are going to CBD are going to CBD for significant neurological, immune, or pain disorders. And so when you look at these crappy markets, crappy products that just have a ton of money behind them and a ton of marketing, it was just really frustrating looking at the market and knowing that it can and should be done better. So
Yeah, this is something that I see a lot when it comes to what I do essentially is, I'm doing marketing for practitioners. And so in order to prove the veracity and the efficacy of the medicine that we do, it has to be economically viable. But when you have these two, call it perspectives, coming together to create something that is beneficial for an audience or client, customer, or patient, um, they're often at odds with each other. The money people care mostly about the money, and the medicine people care mostly about the medicine. And figuring out that harmony between those two things is not something that is always, at least in the first iterations, scalable. That's what it seems like. It seems like if they slow down long enough to focus and prioritize efficacy, then you know it's like the what. Sorry, my brain's a little slow. Let me get the word. I'll find it. The corporate model of growing a business is you keep decreasing your margins. So in other words, the ingredients need to cost less and less and less over time, especially if it's a public company and it's something where you're more beholden to the shareholders than you are to the end audience that is consuming your products. And in that model, we can't do good medicine because obviously, you can't keep making farming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper in a way that is beneficial for the people that are, consuming the product, right? So how do you navigate that? How do you advocate for boundaries that need to be set in order for medicine to focus on the medicine and the efficacy of it? Do you have an answer for that, or is that just one of the challenges that we all have to contend with?
I mean, it's definitely a challenge we all have to contend with. I think getting into it, I was remarkably naive. I was like, if I put really good medicine out there and I help people, like, then it'll grow and we'll be able to expand the reach of the medicine. We can hop on this trend and piggyback on this massive trend of CBD and get Chinese herbs to all these people. And they're going to realize how much more effective this is and how much more high quality our products are because they're hand extracted with spring wind herbs through alchemical spagyric extraction, and they're fucking amazing. They're phenomenal herbs. I'm so proud of every detail of them. But the journey is so much harder because yes, you can get some sales and sort of do a small business if you're just doing good herbs. But you don't really realize when you're getting into it, or at least I certainly didn't. And again, very fucking naive. How much is behind running a business and how important it is to learn how to market, to learn how to optimize your website, to learn how to make connections and strategic um, partnerships. I mean, the business 101 like that I have learned over the past 5 years has been brutal and really interesting. And I think that's one of the things that's also really hard for practitioners is if you do get into a supplement company or doing some sort of ecom, it does take away from your ability to see patients and practice the medicine. Like my favorite part of what I do is creating formulas. So whenever I start a new company, I'm like, oh my God, I get to create formulas, and that's done in a day. Like it's not like I need like months to come up with a formulation because this is my life. This is what I live. This is what I breathe. I love creating formulas. And then every day after that is how do I get these out to more people? And it really pushes me tremendously to get outside of my comfort zone, to learn new things, which is really fun and exciting. I've done a lot of podcasts and done a lot of things that I really am not super comfortable with and certainly wasn't before. But to me, the goal of my businesses and the goal of my role in this medicine at this point is really to help inspire other practitioners to think outside of the box and come up with business ideas that really expand the reach and the scope of our medicine, and also to let lay people know what we have to offer. Because I think Chinese medicine is the most brilliant, most safe and effective medical system in the world. It's such an honor to practice it. And unless we get out in front of more people and let them know what we can do, then it's never going to reach its full potential. And right now, I really feel like it is a critical time in our society to really get at it and let people know, because people are increasingly frustrated with the Western medical system, which is largely failing them in so many ways. And that could be an entire other podcast and something I love ranting on.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that I talk a lot about on the podcast, is that, since COVID, consumer confidence in allopathic medicine is at an all-time low. The amount of time and attention that you get from your doctors is at an all-time low. The bureaucracy and the systems around, the structuring of who you can see, when you can see, how much it costs, all of these kinds of things, what is prescribed, has been captured in a lot of ways by the business of the allopathic model. And so because of that, people want to see doctors that give a shit, like that are invested in outcomes, and that take the time to understand really what's going on. And because of that, the people that they're seeking out are alternative medicine people. And so the demand for what you guys do is going to hit an all-time high in the next 5 years. And because of that, we need to be prepared, and we're not. Like, that's the
No.
underlying message, is that we're not prepared. People don't have the capacity, the bandwidth, they don't have to know how to get the message out, which is crucial, because there's still a huge education gap. I think a lot of people still think about, TCM in particular, as something that is like a little woo-woo, a little spiritual, a little, mystical or magical, or something that doesn't have like clear science backed behind it. If they really understood what we study in school, in terms of just the documentation of patient cases, and how far back those records go, and how detailed they are, their minds would be blown. But we have to be the advocates that are, sounding the horn and ringing the bell to get people through the doors and understand what it is we do. And so on that note, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you've been going through with your son Remy, and because I think that even people that have some sense that acupuncture can do some things well, think of it as kind of a placebo, or some kind of soft medicine or subtle medicine. And you're talking about a pretty significant condition and presentation of a condition. And tell us a little bit about what you were able to do for him.
So Remy's disorder is called STXBP1. So it's a mutation. It's a single nucleotide mutation. And I always say, in either the wrong or the right place. It's unclear. I'm pretty certain that Remy's exactly the human he's supposed to be, and I happen to think he's pure perfection. But I might be biased because I made him. But so the syntaxin binding protein is in charge of like the vesicle uptakes in the brain, the neurotransmitter uptake from different neurons. So it impacts every aspect of his life. Like, he didn't walk till he was 6. He's fully nonverbal. Cognitively, the test would put him around a year and a half. Parkinsonian like tremors, epilepsy, the whole nine, right? Like, it impacts every single aspect of his life. Also the happiest, coolest kid ever. So with Remy, he was really, so for kids with Remy's disorder, what we often see is that a lot of the kids, since it has significant seizures, if you know any kids with like a severe seizure disorder, they are very hazed out. So it's like phlegm mist in the mind times 10. If you know about brain waves, they're like deep in like theta delta brain waves 24 hours a day. Like, they are not there. I used to work so hard to get Remy to laugh. Like, I would do anything. So if you see me at the playground with Remy, I'm like the most animated mom ever, because like that's what he trained me to do, because that was the only way I could get him to laugh. And like, I will do anything to hear that little giggle. So we've done a tremendous amount of stuff in the realm of Chinese medicine and beyond. I've got a hyperbaric in my bedroom. We used to go to Ecuador for a month twice a year, where we do hyperbarics, ozone, neurofeedback, all sorts of different stuff. So we've gone way beyond uh, what anybody would consider reasonable. That being said, Chinese medicine and the CBD formula Remy's Revenge have really dramatically changed his life. So I created that formula, I think he was about 3 or 4. So it was quite a while ago. He had not been sleeping at all. So that's first things first. As a parent, you know this. If your kids aren't sleeping, you're not sleeping, they're not sleeping, hell is upon you. Like, there's just no way out of that. And when it's been like years at a time, like Remy's sleeping in bed with me because he has seizures. I haven't slept, he hasn't slept. So that was first and foremost just a hugely dramatic shift in our lives. Then we were able to get rid of his Parkinsonian like tremors. So the CBD was really effective with that. And when I say the CBD, I mean with the Chinese herbal formula, which any practitioners listening, I do give out the raw herbal formula if you want it for your patients or for yourselves or people you love, because I think it's a really great seizure formula. As somebody who's watched seizures for so long, I think I have a deep understanding of how they work in the body. But so, the Chinese herbs, the CBD, and the acupuncture really got rid of his Parkinsonian like tremors. Those will only show up when he is like really, really tired or having a really bad day. And his seizures are completely controlled now. So the CBD immediately got rid of, the breakthrough seizures, and then he was just having clusters. And since then, we've been able to get rid of those completely also. And I've worked with a lot of patients with epilepsy with really great results using the foundations of Chinese medicine. And it's one of those things where like I love nerding. One of the things I love about Chinese herbs is we can look up the pharmacological actions of the herbs as well as the Eastern energetics. However, the further I get into this path, the more I realize that like the pharmacological actions just don't really matter that much to me, because Chinese medicine understands it in such a dynamic way that Western medicine will never be able to capture.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you've had pretty dramatic quality of life improvements on a serious condition, like a genetic disorder. Usually it's like the way that it's addressed with allopathic medicine isn't something that necessarily improves quality of life. It's sedating and
It's horrible. So
yeah.
just to jump in, sorry to interrupt you, but like there was just a conference with a bunch of the kids with Remy's genetic disorder in Colorado this summer. And like it was disturbing to me and like heartbreaking to see how dysregulated these kids were. So they were either, clearly very emotionally and physically dysregulated, or they were so zoned out that they could not engage whatsoever. And I've been wanting to do a poll on the Facebook group, but I haven't done it yet. But I would say that on average, kids with significant genetic disorders like Remy are on 5 to 6 different pharmaceuticals. So that's 5 to 6 different farms for these little nuggets, right? And we have
Mhm.
no idea how these farms are interacting. And what I can tell you is Remy is on 0 pharmaceuticals. He's only on supplements. He's so engaged. He's so happy, and he's so healthy. Like this kid rocks through everything. And that is all Chinese medicine.
That's amazing. That's a crazy kind of a testament. I think because you're the mom, you can do things that usually access is not available because of all of mm, the liability implications of doing this kind of medicine on somebody else's kid, right? And I think it's a huge testament to your character and you know just a mother's love for their kid. But I just want to emphasize like the strength of the medicine that you've been able to produce, and the outcomes that have literally changed his life and your life and all of that. Was that something that was surprising to you, or did you just feel it in your gut that this was the answer?
Well, I believe in the medicine, which I think we've all been tested on quite a bit over the past couple of years. I mean, it was very surprising to me to see how many people in our field sort of gave up on the medicine during COVID, or, like handed over their authority to Western medicine when COVID hit. And you're like, but look at all of our herbs. Like, don't you think that we can treat, wind damp invasion? So I have deep belief in our medicine, and I know that it is really safe and effective. And I know that pharmaceuticals come with a cost. Everything comes with a cost. I mean, for Remy, if he has gluten, it'll cause seizures. If I give him too much sugar, it might cause seizures. Like everything has a cost risk benefit. And to me, the cost risk benefit of the seizure meds and these attention deficit medications, sleep medications, that's not a cost risk benefit that weighs out in the side of actually giving those meds to my kids. And to be clear, I have tried seizure meds on Remy. They never did much, if not made things worse. But you know, at a certain point, you have to be like, well, any of these seizures can kill my child. That's something I have to live with every day. SUDEP, sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, is like SIDS for kids with epilepsy or for adults with epilepsy. That's something that I have to deal with on a very visceral level every day. Every single night I put my kid to bed, I have to look the reality in the eye that like that might be the last time I see my child alive. And that's just a fact. And so at a certain point, you have to, as a doctor, like you reach like, well, maybe I should try some of the seizure meds and see if this is going to get that next little bit of control. Because if something happens, I don't know that I'd ever forgive myself. So I have tried them and they didn't do jack shit. They did not help. They did not control anything. And so that was really reaffirming to me in my journey. And the more I see Remy grow up and live his best life, the more I see the progression of the other children with this disorder, the more I know that we're on the right path and that Remy is living his best life. And you know, that might ultimately be a shortened life. I don't know what Remy's path is going to be, but I know that he is the happiest, healthiest version of himself that he can be. And I think that that's all we can hope for anybody on this planet.
Yeah, that's amazing. So this all started with Remy and you creating a formula for him, and then that became a business. How has that gone, first of all? And first let's talk about the difficulty of taking a formula that you're using for your kid and then expanding that out into a company and creating formulas and marketing and advertising and you know getting your LLCs and doing all of the things that go along with that. Walk us through kind of the good and the bad of that journey for us.
um I'm just thinking about which parts to elaborate on. So getting the LLC is very simple. Just go online, go to like zenbusiness.com or some shit like that, and
Yeah,
they'll do it
legal
for like
Zen.
$100.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure there's an AI platform now.
Mm.
Um, but so you know, CBD is a particularly interesting field because, again, there was such a boom and then now there's such a bust, and still there's no marketing available unless you have a lot of money. So it's really hard if you're bootstrapping for sure. So like anything, if you come at it with a lot of money, that's going to be helpful. You know, we partnered with L.A.C early on, and that's been really helpful in terms of getting our names out there. You know, that is sort of a double-edged sword and something that I would really consider whether or not you want to do if you are a supplement company moving, you know, if I was starting over again, it's something that I would highly consider because if you want to sell direct to practitioners, um, you're going to get better margins if you do that yourself, right? So L.A.C is wholesaling, or any of these, you know, wholesale supplement companies are wholesaling to wholesalers. So those margins are pretty brutal. Like I make very little money off of the herbs that are sold through L.A.C. However, it's enough to sort of keep things going, but then it's also helpful because then I don't have to market to practitioners, but practitioners would are a really great market to market to. But in order at this point to market to practitioners, I'd probably have to cut out L.A.C and break our agreement and stop selling through them because most people are going to buy through L.A.C because they're ordering their supplies through them anyway. Again, L.A.C has been a great partner. I love them. I'm not, you know, they've been super helpful, but it was just a big lesson for me in that because I really had no idea what sort of margins are appropriate and where people might be taking advantage of me or what the long-term vision might be in terms of how we're going to sell our products or what that might look like. Retail is very hard to get into, but very interesting. Again, with that, the margins are going to be brutal. So I know a lot of people who have raised funds for their companies and made a ton of product. And then with retail, if you're doing a larger retail push, they can just pull that rug out from underneath you after you put in $100,000 into product or something like that, and that can kill a company really quickly. So to me, I think the slow, sustained grow is the ideal way to do it, and to keep your authenticity and your integrity as a company. Um, Trying to think. For me, also podcasts have been great. Since we can't run ads, getting on podcasts and being able to share my story with Remy, share more information about the medicine, dispel some of the widely held myths that are out there, I think has a double effect for me. It helps me feel like I'm doing something to move our medicine forward, and expand our reach. And also, it can really improve sales pretty well. I think paying for ads on podcasts or paying to be on a sponsored podcast is not something I would do at this point. But it was a pretty interesting marketing tool a couple of years ago. Now it's sort of, there's so many podcasts. I don't really, like I was on like Wellness Mama, which is like a big fucking podcast. And I think I got like 2 sales, and I was like, huh. And that wasn't a pay to play one, but that was just a one. But like some of them convert and some of them don't. So I think it's just sort of hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah. The challenge is like that's one of the things that I want people to get out of this podcast is I think that the vast majority of people that go to school to become acupuncturists put no zero to little thought into what it looks like once you graduate and you have to make money. I think that I don't know why. Like we sort of know that we're not going to go get a job at a hospital coming out of school, but there's still this. It's different than the entrepreneur that set out with an intention to be an entrepreneur. Like
Yeah.
you understand, you may not know how difficult it's going to be or what all the specific difficulties are that you're going to have to navigate on the onset, but you're willing to go through something difficult in order to get somewhere that is beneficial and that aligns with your values and your lifestyle requirements and all of these kinds of things. When you're going to school for medicine, you're in it for the medicine. And so it's almost like we have some kind of blinders on where we're just not aware what's outside of our blinders and the thought of what is an offer?
Yeah.
Who am
Oh
I
my God.
selling to? How do I find them? What are margins? What are KPIs? How do I track my progress? How do I make sure that I'm moving the needle and that I'm focusing my attention on the right things? All these things are fucking hard. Like this is hard. This is if you're not going through some kind of program that is literally, telling you a process and you're just following a process that somebody else designed, and even then you have to trust because you don't know the questions to ask in the beginning. You have to trust that whatever program you signed up for is going to be beneficial to you. Like all of that is we need to know what we're signing up for, and you don't know that until you've signed up for it and you're 6-figure deep student loan debt invested.
Dude,
That's the
I totally agree. There's some acupuncture marketing group, I forget their name, and what I'm gonna say is not gonna be favorable about them, but I remember they would post shit on Facebook all the time and be like, if you're not making 6 figures as an acupuncturist, you should go back to your knitting. Nah, 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 nah. And I'd just be like, fuck you. Like, seriously, fuck you. Nobody got into this medicine to make money. We all got into this medicine because we saw a potential way to support the people we love and the people in our community and help build health in our society. Nobody gets into Chinese medicine being like, now I'm going to be an entrepreneur and make a ton of money, right? Like, so as you're saying, we get out with tons of debt, right? The schools are all failing. It was really hopeful for a minute about that student loan forgiveness, but it doesn't seem like that's going to come to our aid. But maybe some mystical thing will happen and the government will, well, the government has shut down. Anyway, I digress. Like nobody gets into this thinking that they're going to run a business, but in order to practice this medicine, you have to run a business. And it is really challenging to learn that while you are just set free with a ton of debt and trying to figure out what's going to happen after one class on business in school. Like we have no background in this. But what I will say is that no matter what your vision is, there is a business model that can make you money. So like if you have some community that you want to support, you can make a business model around that. with urban herbs, it was like I was obsessed with the idea of doing sliding scale custom Chinese herbal formulas. I will do that business model again, but not until I have the funding to do it appropriately. But like I was obsessed with this and I made it happen. And that was so hard. And with Radical Roots, it was like, okay, I've got to find something that's going to help these kids. It's going to help adults with neurological conditions. So it's going to be safer and more effective than what's on the market. And I did that. And like, you have to just hold that vision and just keep pushing because it's going to kick you in the face over and over again because it's hard and you're going to make mistakes because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. And we're often doing it in a very isolated silo as well. So like I'm a single mom of a kiddo with multiple disabilities and I'm a solo entrepreneur. Like you don't get much more isolated than that. And it's hard and it's lonely and like you just have to keep pushing. But I think the more you work on your mindset and hold that intention and remember who you're trying to serve, then it pulls you through those hard times and helps you find a path forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to have community of people going through something similar because it is tremendously isolating. Not just in the way of like you get in your head and you worry about all the things and you're stressed about all the stresses and all of that, but you get to a stage where the people that you used to go get a drink with cannot relate to what you're going through, cannot understand the decisions that you're making, do not hold the vision or validate anything that you say. And you sort of hear this, you get it from your parents, you get it from your friends, like when are you going to get a real job kind of a talks. And that can be so disheartening and debilitating if you let it. And so of course mindset is the thing that can save you. Um, but so can community, like that's one of the things that we're trying to bring together with these firesides is that I just want people to know that there is a community because even if you take the practitioners that are licensed in this country at large across the whole country, it's 33,000 people or something like that. We're few and far between. Like
Yeah.
just even if and you sort of see the other people as your competitors. Acupuncture, this is one thing that I will say as somebody that's kind of come into this community, return to this community from the marketing side of the street and trying to talk about businesses and business development and those kinds of things. People tell me things that they don't necessarily tell each other because they need help, and by virtue of the fact that I'm having a help conversation with them, they have vulnerability with me. And one of the things that you see is that we very much have a mentality of kind of the redheaded stepchild, right? We're way down on the rung of doctors, and a lot of states can't even call yourself a doctor, even though your education is definitely of a level of the cost of the time spent of any other credentialed doctor in the country. And so I think we're so wounded that instead of looking to each other for support, there's kind of a competitive attitude around the community, and everybody talks a lot of shit about each other instead of coming together and seeing how we can help each other. I definitely believe that the rising tide can lift all ships, and so I'm committed to creating the community if I have to, just like you're committed to building the businesses and finding the success if you have to, because we have to. If our medicine is going to survive, it's going to be through advocacy and cooperation and like challenge, like engaging with the difficult questions that nobody has answered yet, right? Like the fact that the schools are shutting down, this is a problem. Like, and not just a problem, but it's like if you're thinking about, you said that I could get funded to take out a loan for six figures because I'm going to go to a place where I can afford to pay that back and be better off than I would have been had I not taken that out. But that means that once I sign the contract and I've volunteered for that level of debt, I expect something in return. I expect to have quality education. I expect to be prepared for what I'm signing up for. I expect to know what all of the challenges and the pitfalls and the constraints and the stresses are, and I need to be prepared, or else you failed us, right? Well,
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 they did.
yeah.
No, it's well, I think you bring up a really important point in terms of the practitioners and how, I mean, fuck, man, they're so nasty sometimes. Like if you go to acupuncturists on Facebook, like that is a dark, dark place, my friend. I remember one time, this is probably sort of off topic, but just like a fun anecdote about our medicine. Merlin Young, who runs Moxa Africa. Brilliant man. I'm obsessed with him and the work that they do. So they're using moxibustion to treat drug-resistant tuberculosis in Africa, now in North Korea, different other parts of the world. Brilliant man, most fucking heart-centered human in the world. And so he was on Sheological with Michael Max, right? And I had listened to it, and I'm a fangirl of Merlin and have been for years. We were pen pals when I was in school. He was just a lovely, lovely human. So I was so excited he was on Sheological, and I posted a link on Acupuncturist on Facebook and was like, our medicine used to be considered barefoot medicine. And, the work that Merlin's doing is really showing an incredible way that we can, expand our thoughts about how we can get our medicine out there to people. It's just so brilliant and lovely. And this one practitioner, I have no idea who he is, just starts going at me and is like, it was never considered barefoot medicine. Have you read the classics? Da, 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 da. Literally, I kid you not, I'm at a playground with Remy, who's having seizures, and I'm trying to protect Remy so people don't see that my child's having seizures, because then they're like gonna freak out and call an ambulance or something. I'm just trying to like keep him from having seizures. I'm trying to and I'm getting these notifications on my phone from this guy who just keeps going at me. And I wrote back and I was like, you're probably correct. Like, I don't spend my time sitting around reading the fucking classics. Like, I'm sorry. Like, perhaps I misspoke. My whole point was just to highlight the brilliant work that Merlin's doing and the lovely podcast that Michael Max has. And this guy would not stop. And I was just like, what? Like, what are you doing, bud? Like, why? And I see this all of the time. Like, people just get so nasty, and it's like, look, we're all here for the same reason. And if we actually work together, we can really help a lot of people. And we might be doing that in different ways. And you might like 5E, and I might study classical Chinese medicine. You might do Japanese style, and we might all have a different path in this medicine. But guess what? We're all helping people, and that's our ultimate goal. So if we can do that, let's help each other and help more people. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I think it's good to remember that often the abused become abusers, and that's a pretty dramatic thing to say, but it's a wounded audience. There's a lot of wounds in these communities, and I'm saying that in a dramatic way because the experience that I have when I'm talking to people is quite dramatic, and that can be addressed. We have to, ultimately, when your vocation is to be a nurturer and a healer, you have to have your cup has to be full in order to have enough to give out. And if it's not, then fucking A, this is not what anybody signed up for. It's a different level of suffering when all of the energy that you do have is being leveraged into literally other people. And so if we can just look to each other to have a little soothing and a little support and a little fucking understanding and a little compassion for how difficult this all is, then maybe we could actually get somewhere. So on that note, I think that it would be good to end this with something uplifting.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So Chloe, what have you learned that you can impart to people that are either just getting started or that are right in the thick of it, that helps you keep going? What is the thing that has either motivated you to keep going, or that you see the answer, like you understand that you're on a path and you're getting to somewhere?
Well, I will admit that some days I don't want to keep going. um, uh, that being said, most days, um, I remember the people that have been helped and whose lives have been changed by the medicine and by my practicing the medicine, by the herbs that I sell. I remember the kids and their parents who come to me and tell me that their child's seizures went from 100 seizures a day to 5 or 10. I remember the people who have gotten off of pharmaceuticals because of the medications that I put out there. And I remember that this medicine is a brilliant paradigm, and that we are so fortunate to practice it. And that Chinese medicine, this is one thing that I always say in podcasts, Chinese medicine is an evidence-based medical system that has been practiced and honed by millions of doctors over thousands of years. Like, this medical system needs to get out to people. And when we look at our society at large, it is so essential that we push forward through the discomfort and find a path forward to get this medicine to more people. Because truly, the decimation of the health of our children and the decimation of the health of our society has reached a critical mass. And we have answers that can sustainably help people build health. And so we need to honor, our medicine and do the best that we can to get that to more people. So that's what pushes me forward.
Amen. Amen to that. So yeah, I think that for me, the takeaway is that whether you realize it or not, you answered a calling. This is a calling that is not lifestyle driven. This is a calling that speaks to like purpose, essentially. And this is something that goes to the core of who you are and what you're here to do and the impact that you're here to make. And as long as you hold that close to yourself and inside of your chest, then that is going to be the fuel that gets you through all of the challenges that you're all going to contend with. And if you can remember that, and if you can find a few people that are going through the same thing, that are there and can support you through the hardship, then we're all going to be okay. And not just that, we're going to thrive. There are things that we can do now that we couldn't do 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in terms of how you get the message out, how you can reach an audience and find your people. There's more ways to do that than there ever has been, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down. We're probably 7 years away from having chips on our heads, where we can instantly communicate with everybody in the world with just a thought. So that's coming. And so who is going to ground us and center us through all of that? It's you guys. So thank you all for listening. We appreciate you, Chloe. This has been an amazing podcast. I hope you guys come back, like, subscribe, share all the things, and lots of love. All right. I've never done a podcast this early, so we're just gonna fucking roll with it. No, I think that's what people need to hear. I think that the weeds, it's like if you come into this and you think that it's all going to be smooth sailing, well, sorry, kid. Like, that's not this. You want the easy path. It's like you can sell your soul for ease and complacency, or you can keep your soul, but it's going to cost you everything. It's either or. You can't collect a
No,
paycheck, not have to worry about anything, and feel impassioned about how you spend your time.
no,
It's
that is something that I think, like, often when I'm hiking with the dogs in the morning, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What the fuck? Why do I stupid? Like, this is ridiculous. And then I'm like, Chloe, you did not pick an easy path. That is obvious. But, like, is there another path for you? No. Like, stay on the fucking path. You know you're on the path you're supposed to be on. It sucks, but you also chose it. So keep fucking going.
that's I have that conversation with myself at least once a week. It's like, oh, this, you get bitter about how much, yeah, you have to contend with week to week, all of the uncertainties that come and go, all of the challenges that you face, the answers that you don't have, the unknowing of everything, and just like this pressure to like get to a place where you can finally relax a little bit and start to feel like, oh, okay, it's we're getting somewhere. And you can see it and you could smell it and you could taste it and you know that you're almost there, and then a fucking bill goes unpaid or something like that, or you get a pissed off customer or something like that, or something happens that but all of these kinds of things, like, oh, why the fuck am I putting myself through this? And then something happens and you're like, oh yeah, that's why.
Exactly.
um,
Like whenever somebody writes me and is like, like, just so grateful about the herbs, I'm like sometimes it's like early when you need it. You're just like, okay,
ah.
fine.
Okay, you'll do
Keep
one more
going.
day.
Was talking. He had like roundtable of women's health experts, and like I was like, it's so stupid not to have a doctor of Chinese medicine involved. Like again, it's similar to radical roots. We need to be front and center in the conversation when it comes to women's hormones. And like, I don't want to be the expert that's out there, but nobody else is fucking doing it. So I'll do it, like.
Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. All the things. Yeah. Okay. Okay.